We've got a very interesting report here involving the New York Rangers center Mika Zibanejad and him kind of talking a bit about some ice time. So we're going to dive into that and kind of what the quotes are from Zibanejad as well as from Peter Laviolette and kind of what has been said surrounding this whole situation here, which is a little interesting and definitely will be as things move on later on into this season as well. So let's get right into it here, starting off with the quotes here that we have from the New York Post. Quote, "You can feel it on the bench," Zibanejad told the Post following the morning skate in advance of Tuesday's match against the Capitals. Quote, "I was averaging 20 plus minutes a few years ago, and I felt really good with that because you can find a better rhythm." He also went on to say, quote, "Missing those extra 2 or 3 minutes, whatever it might be, you can try and create and feel like it's going to come, but it is what it is." And I think that's very interesting from a guy who is supposed to be a veteran leader on this team, who's supposed to be the number one center, like he's getting paid like. And unfortunately, we're just not seeing that kind of game out of a guy like Zibanejad. We're not seeing that number one caliber center. And he has had multiple really great seasons with the Rangers, but it has been, this season so far, last season, where he hasn't looked phenomenal, hasn't looked like that, great Mika Zibanejad that we know he can be at moments, being a, pretty solid defensive. I'm not going to say an elite defensive center, but he can be a very solid, very good defensive center at moments for this Rangers team. He's, obviously a pretty solid penalty killer. He's obviously a pretty big body out there on the ice at moments, has a lethal one-timer. It definitely has gone quiet over the last 2 years. And the one nice thing is that he does, yes, still put up some pretty solid numbers, but he does get quite a bit of power play time, and a lot of Rangers fans, myself included, but kind of want to see Lafreniere maybe swap him and Zibanejad there on that power play 1 unit. I wouldn't mind seeing that, but as of right now, we haven't seen that. Maybe we do see that as Zibanejad ice time has kind of dropped off a bit. Maybe it comes to the power play as well. We'll have to wait and see, but his numbers, so far this season are still pretty good. He has 9 games played, 2 goals, 5 assists, 7 points. He is a -3 though. He's got 2 power play points, both of them assists. There are no power play goals yet, which is very disappointing for a guy like Zibanejad, who is supposed to have that elite lethal one-timer at moments. And I mean, obviously I'm not saying throughout his entire career he's had that, but we have seen moments when Zibanejad has been absolutely lethal on the power play, and it's really just disappointing that we haven't seen that in, at least, this season and last season especially. We just had not seen that in a while now, and I would love to see them come around, but at this point here, I think we should really give a chance to a guy like Alexis Lafreniere, who has been playing so good, and from what we know, or at least I know, and from reports that I've seen, I haven't seen much of, Lafreniere obviously kind of complaining about the no power play time, so he's a guy who's kind of dug through there. He was playing under David Quinn there, getting fourth-line minutes at moments, obviously gone through a few head coaches now with Gerard Gallant as well, and then obviously now Peter Laviolette, but he's finally found a coach who seems to believe in him, unlike kind of Gallant and David Quinn. Unfortunately, those guys didn't seem to really believe in a guy like Lafreniere, but he's battled through. He worked hard in the offseason, came back, had a monster season last year. And I know he's a younger guy, obviously, so it's a little different than Zibanejad, but he's a guy who seemingly hasn't, from what I know, complained about the ice time on the power play, especially when he has been one of the better, 5-on-5, even strength producers offensively this season so far and last season. He's been absolutely phenomenal. So it kind of says something there that, obviously Zibanejad, yes, he is getting paid a lot of money there, and he is supposed to be that top-line center and may still feel like he is the best center on this team, but as of right now, he is not the best center on this team. Zibanejad is just not. Trocheck and Hedl, I would say, are both definitely better as of right now. I mean, maybe we do see Zibanejad heat up like he can at moments, and he might go on a, 10-game goal streak possibly. He can have those kind of moments, but we haven't seen that in a while, and I really just am hoping it comes around at some point in the near future, but if it doesn't, we are stuck with this guy for a very long time. So let's take a look at the contract here as well and kind of dive into that a bit because, I've seen some things kind of talked about this contract, about Zibanejad's deal, and it's not really great at all. If you take a look at this contract long-term wise, for this season next, maybe he turns it around a bit there and can kind of heat up and it looks decent, making $8.5 million for this season next possibly. But into the future, he is going to make $8.5 million on the cap hit, every single season on average, making $8.5 million until 2029, 2030. That is a very long time there. And if you might say, hey, let's look to trade him. You can't really do that at all because he has a full no movement clause, which means There is not a single way you can trade him away unless he okays a trade. He has to say, okay, yes, I accept this trade. I'm willing to go to wherever that place is, which he probably won't because he's been with Rangers so long there. He's obviously a leader on this team. He's kind of a big name in for the Rangers, obviously. So I don't see him ever wanting to really leave, the New York City. Obviously, it's a great city. You got the Rangers here who were competing for the playoffs and going on runs in the playoffs pretty much every single season, at least for the last little while here. So it really is going to be interesting kind of what happens with this deal long term because he has a lot of term left on this deal, making $8.5 million. He's got a full no movement clause, and eventually in 2029, 2030, there is a little bit of a kind of change there, some clause in that deal where it finally does come down 7 days prior to the 2030 NHL trade deadline. 7 days before that, it will become a modified no trade clause with a 21-team no trade list. So there's still going to be a 21-team no trade list 7 days before the 2030 NHL trade deadline. So in the last season of this deal, at the deadline 7 days before, he will have instead of a full no movement clause, it will go down to a 21-team no trade list. So it's just absolutely ridiculous there. This contract at the time didn't look bad at all, I would say, but now it's not looking great. At the time, I didn't love this deal. I'm not going to be honest here. I didn't love the deal when it was signed, and obviously, hindsight's 2020, whatever people say, but it's just, as of right now, really not looking like a good deal long-term wise. Now, maybe, like I said, he does have a great rest of the season here and has another couple good years, but, that 2029, 2030, 2028, 2029, those last couple of years, I really am kind of worried about those years. And $8.5 million, yes, cap's going to go up, but that is a big number there. You can't trade the guy away unless he okays it, which I don't see happening. So it's going to be very interesting, and I'm really not quite sure what's going to happen with Zibanejad. And maybe he does eventually want to trade possibly if his ice time doesn't come back, but I don't see that happening in my opinion. I could be very wrong. And definitely comment down below your thoughts and opinions on this whole situation here. I don't want to insinuate too much here and kind of say like Zibanejad just being a little kind of whiny baby here about this, but obviously he is talking about the ice time there, and it doesn't seem like he's too happy about his ice time dropping off, although he has not performed like a guy who deserves to be getting, top line, number one center kind of minutes there as he does, get the penalty kill time and also get the power play time. He is a guy who has not performed like a player of the ice time that he's getting and the contract that he's getting. So hopefully he can turn things around. I mean, that's what's best for this Rangers team going forward. It's for Zibanejad to turn things around and become that star guy that we know he has been in the past. Even last season, he still put up some good numbers there. This season so far, the numbers are there, but it's the overall play. It just hasn't quite been there for a guy who's supposed to be the number one center for this New York Rangers team. And the last thing here, we have a quote from an article of the New York Post there, from the Zibanejad article, and it basically says here, talking about Peter Laviolette, and that he is striving, Peter Laviolette, to fulfill a pledge he made during camp to spread ice time beyond the top six so that more players are engaged. I think that's a good idea. I mean, we've seen this third line of the Rangers of Cooley, Hedl, and Kakko look more like a second line, whereas you have that, obviously Kreider, Zibanejad, Smith line more like a third line, and then you obviously have that, amazing line of Panarin, Trocheck, and Lafreniere that is more like the number one line. So it's interesting there, but obviously spreading around the ice time there, especially in that top nine, I think makes a lot of sense there. We have a really solid top nine forward core there. Whether you want to talk about that as a Zibanejad contract or not, he is still putting up good numbers offensively, whether he's playing, like a point per game caliber guy right now or a guy worth $8.5 million. Wouldn't quite say that, but he is still putting up some very good numbers, which is at least, one bright side about this whole situation involving Mika Zibanejad. As of right now, I'm still a fan of his. I don't hate the guy by any means. I have one of his jerseys there, but at the end of the day, I just want to see this team win a cup there, and Mika Zibanejad turning things around and getting back into prime form would be amazing for this team. And also, if he does have a bit less ice time throughout the regular season there, maybe it can allow him to really show up in the playoffs when it matters most. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, definitely hit that like and subscribe button for a ton more New York Rangers content. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.